Hello, and welcome everyone to the Chevron Unlocked podcast, a podcast all about Stargate and the Stargate universe. Join myself, BC, and my fellow hosts, Kevin and Mark, as we talk about SG-1, Atlantis, and Stargate universe. The approach we are taking is to look at 2 or 3 episodes per podcast and discuss those. Thanks for checking us out, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. This is episode 1. It should be episode 2, but we had some technical difficulties on the first episode. First episode, what we did is we talked about and covered the movie, talked about our thoughts, why we enjoyed the movie so much, and hopefully sometime down the road we can maybe touch back up with that, kind of go over that stuff again. But for now, we're going to start with episode 1. We're actually going to start getting into SG-1. We're going to cover Children of the Gods Part 1 and 2 and The Enemy Within. Talk about that entire story arc and how it's kind of leading into how the show is going to be presented from that point forward. I'm BC. My fellow hosts are Kevin and Mark. How are you boys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Great.
Good. Kevin here went and saw Star Wars tonight, and we've decided that there's going to be no Star Wars discussion, partially because it's a Stargate podcast, but partially because I haven't seen the movie yet, and I don't want to choke a bitch, you know? So, let's just dive right into it. Children of the Gods. 1, I thought that was a great name for that 2-part episode. I thought that was like the best way they could have named an intro into that show. Kevin, let's just start with you. What'd you think, bud?
Yeah, I thought it was a great way to kind of introduce us to the Goa'uld and how they're breeding and how they're changing hosts and setting up the big bad.
And I know we just watched that damn movie. I literally just watched that movie a week ago. The Jaffa are introduced in SG-1, correct? It's
correct.
Literally introduced in Children of the Gods because there's no actual previous conversation about that.
Yeah, it sort of rewrites the whole thing because in the movie, the other lesser gods were the role of the Jaffa. They were the guards. Like we had Horus, we had a couple of others that were Ra's guards. But in this, that role is the Jaffa. And then the other named gods are the big bad Goa'uld, the mature Goa'uld.
Yes. Mark, what'd you think? Just your initial thoughts on the first 2 episodes before we get into Enemy Within.
I don't know. I thought it was good, especially like you said, the name of it. I thought it was a really good name because it's obscure, but still, once it's actually said in the episode, it actually finally pops in your head what it means.
You know, the one thing in episode 1 of Children of the Gods, you know, you're reintroduced to Jack O'Neill fairly quickly. I thought it was odd that they immediately went with a different approach to him in terms of immediately giving him a sense of humor, immediately making him sarcastic and whatnot, where it was such a diversion from the O'Neill of the movie.
You're 100% right. We see that especially not only in his interactions with Carter, but when she is first going through the gate and she hesitates like Daniel did, and he just pushes her through.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I like the direction that they're heading with it. It's better for the show to give him kind of that, almost like, so we talked about it last week, how the original movie, it was kind of portrayed, at least to me, that the movie is told through Daniel's eyes. And I think with the TV show, the character of Jack O'Neill is sometimes the audience in terms of he's that guy that says, okay, now explain that to me like I'm an idiot, you know?
Yeah.
And I think with anything that's kind of a sci-fi based either movie or TV show, you kind of have to have that one character. Prime example with Ghostbusters, which, side note, my favorite movie of all time. That's why the Winston character works so well, is that he's not the smart scientist. He's the guy that says, okay, now explain that to me like I'm a 4-year-old, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it just it did throw me off a little bit that he was that witty and that snarky on the very first episode, but I do like the change a lot. The one thing that I think it was in the very first, I think you're right, going back to the whole him meeting Carter thing, or just thereafter, they had to MacGyver a bunch of computers together.
Yep, she references it when she sees the DHD.
I'm like, wow, we're not pulling punches on that, are we? Like, we're just going to go ahead and drop those MacGyver bombs right now.
Yeah, it's funny, especially because how many people were in this that were also guests in MacGyver.
Really?
Christopher Judge and Don S. Davis were both in an episode with him. Actually,
Separate
Don S.
episodes?
Davis was in two. Yeah, he was in two episodes. He played some guy named Wyatt Porter, and then also a cement truck driver in another episode.
Well, I'm going to give you all the props in the world for knowing that he was in 2 episodes, and on top of that, knowing his name in one of those episodes. That's a deep cut. Even for MacGyver fans, I'm pretty sure that's a fucking deep cut. The other thing that kind of got me, and again, these are going to be small, the iris, right? So I think we can all agree that some sort of defense mechanism had to be built, to prevent exactly what they were trying to prevent. But they basically slapped those things on their wrists, and there was no testing whatsoever done.
Oh, yeah.
None. Nope. Here you go. Hope you make it back.
Yeah, because they never tested it with Abydos, right? They just basically came up with this shit and said, yep, it's going to work.
Yeah, they just checked. Okay, Kleenex box was the first one.
Yeah.
Yep, they didn't even have the malp.
No, yeah, they didn't even, yeah. No, you're right.
Like, maybe this has atmosphere, maybe it doesn't.
Now, I thought the cleaning box thing was cute. It was clever.
Yeah.
But then O'Neill was like, oh, he'll know it's from me. I'm like, really? Like, because, like, you weren't a snarky character in the movie. Like, he's just going to know. He's going to be like, oh, shit, Kleenex brand. That's from fucking Jack, So that part did bother me. But other than that, I mean, I really liked those first 2 episodes a lot. I really, really did.
I felt like they changed his character because of... I don't think they wanted people to try to compare to the movie anymore. They wanted to try to like create their own or change it so that it's separate from the movie. That's what I thought. But
I would agree with you for the most part there, except for the fact that they kept it as a continuation story. Like,
that's true.
I think that if they were wanting to separate themselves from the movie, then they would have created a whole new, like, still gone with an SG-1 theme, but created a new team, new characters. But even then, it would have just been stereotypes of the characters we saw in the movie. Like, you would have had some nerdy scientist like Daniel Jackson, who just wasn't Daniel Jackson, and you would have still had your Carter, and Teal'c still would have been brought in some form. But let's talk about that for a second. Actually, Kevin, what'd you think about Teal'c? About the addition of that character?
Well, it was a little bit of a quick about face to me. I feel like he was his life is the gods. He's the first prime of Apophis. And, some guy shows up with a watch and he's like, hey, maybe you can save these people I don't give a shit about.
That's one fucking good Casio right there.
Yeah, I like that. That's not go old technology. I don't know if it's better, but here's a weapon.
And again, without trying to get too far into the show, did they initially talk about how he was already kind of in the mindset of being a resistance?
No, they talk about that way later.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
no.
That's what I thought it was, but yeah. So we'll deal with that down the road. The MacGyver quote killed me, and then Kowalski.
It was so quick too.
It was so off the cuff. Like, she was like,
already? It's like not even 10 minutes in.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, you kind of blew your load on that one. Like, and as far as I remember, they don't make another MacGyver quote, but I could be 100% wrong on that.
They do.
Do they?
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bunch of seasons in, but they do. There's one, not to get into it, but Carter's doing a repair on something, and she uses the same method MacGyver used to fix a piston in an engine in one of the episodes.
Okay, you're really starting to worry me about your MacGyver information here, bud. I'm not, like, nobody should have this much innate knowledge of
so much
MacGyver.
Useless information in this head.
Hey, that's okay though, man. That's all right. But yeah, so with Teal'c, thought it was a great addition. I think we all know that it ends up being an amazing addition to the team. I think that he's going to end up working really well with the way they're kind of building the O'Neill character in terms of like the banter and moving stuff back and forth between them. But the enemy within, which is the episode where they're back now. They've come back. Kowalski starts with the headaches, and we get into, him basically having to go old in him. Mark, thoughts?
That it bothers me because of later, but
no, like, feel free to talk about that because I think that's fair game right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't. So it was just like I felt like they just had to bring up them taking over people, and so I think that what bothered me was that okay, so it's already an infant Gould, so it's already like it's not fully matured or anything, and usually like later in the seasons it says that they never take hosts if they're that young. They usually just die. Like it didn't usually happen that quickly.
Correct.
And also, where did the random like force be able for it to jump like that? Like if you remember the scene, it was like a Jaffa that just got killed and it like fell down, and just as they were walking away from into the gate, it like squirms out of the pouch and like jumps out at him and jumps into the back of his neck.
Yep.
And apparently didn't leave a hole or anything.
No, negative.
The one time.
Yeah, a slight bump, if I remember right. Like there was just like the doctor picked up on that slight bump, and I think we talked about this a little bit off cast last week, and I agree with you that it seemed like they got themselves backed into a corner that they're like, shit, we did this wrong, we've got to change this, and just kind of ignored it. Just from that point going forward,
Never brought it up again.
They kind of
the best way to do it.
I think so, especially that early into a run. I think it's not right, but it's okay that if you have to change it, because you came up with a better method or you had a better way of explaining things. I think that's completely fair. But it is something that like a fan's going to remember. A fan's going to pick that up and kind of run with it.
I mean, the first few watch throughs, like I only noticed it like this watch through. Or the last one that I did, and that's
I completely forgot about it until this one.
Yeah. Nope. Absolutely.
So obviously they did it right.
It's like they kind of tried to retcon themselves, without much explanation, if none, But Kowalski, he's got the gold in him, and they attempt to what was the end game that they were going to try to separate it from spinal column, right? Because it wrapped himself around it, and and whatnot, and
brainstem.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, wrapped around the brainstem. Which, side note, I was really happy to see somebody from the original movie come back that early into it. I was kind of for sure that we are going to get guest spots or even somebody show up later on in the series, not being the same character, but there was two. There was Kowalski, and then who's the kid? Why can't I'm blanking out on his name?
Skara.
Skara. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was the same actor from the movie where Ferretti and what's his face were not.
Who? Oh, Stuart French's character.
French Stewart, Ferretti, yeah.
Yeah, Stuart French Stewart. Whatever. Fuck that guy anyway. Whatever. He was actually really good in 30 Rock. I'll give him credit for that one. You still had Skara and Kowalski, so that was kind of cool. I liked the fact that Skara was in there, and I really liked when they got to Abydos that Jackson was sitting there waiting for him, and O'Neill walked like right past him to go, say hi to Skara first. I thought that was really cool.
That's his boy.
Well, loved that. I love that Kowalski was in it. I love that Kowalski was Kowalski. I love that he had that huge part in that episode. And I loved his death. I thought his death was fucking awesome. I thought that him having the wrestling match with Teal'c and the way that Jack, shuts down the gate, and I wish you could have seen it. See, I'm that creepy. I want to see the back half of him that actually got shaved off of there.
Now, what fell out of his head? Was that gold husk? Was that did it still leave something in there, even though they said it didn't?
Yeah,
'cause that thing fell out and dissolved.
Yeah, my reasoning is that yes, you're right, that was some sort of gold husk, almost like some sort of left behind, because they specifically said that they got it out of there, So it had to have been some left behind material that just fell out and just kind of fucking. It was like putting salt on a snail, That's kind of what
All
it
right,
looked
so
like.
I'm calling it right now. My headcanon is that they saw that and then updated their scanning technology. So it's not that it never left a trace, it's just that they couldn't see it.
All right. I'm agreeing with you there.
That works.
I'll go. I'll double up on that. Absolutely double up on that. That is, yeah. I think you got it right there. The other thing I really fucking liked was the sound effect. This is so weird. I like the sound of people hitting the fucking iris.
Oh, the fuck! Oh,
Like, I'm sitting there listening to the first time it happened. I'm like, oh, that is so good. That is such a satisfying sound to a death, you know?
Because you just know that it's just like a bug on a windshield.
It is. And you know that. And Carter's like, do you think they're sending people? Fuck yeah, they're sending goddamn people. Like, they're not dropping fucking care packages into the goddamn wormhole, you know?
love notes. Do you like me? Circle yes.
Yeah, no. You're talking about, like, okay, one, you're supposed to be the fucking smart one on the show, right? And you're talking about people that like a race of beings that gives no shits about anybody else but their their own. Of course, they're fucking sending cannon fodder through that goddamn wormhole, you know? Fuck. Of course, like, it's just human meat shields. That's the only thing going through there. So it's like 100 and, I don't know, maybe a 200-pound piece of meat just hitting that fucking. Oh, it was such a satisfying sound. It was awesome. And I hope to hear a lot more of that. In fact, that may be my new text notification on my iPhone if I can fucking find that sound. If I can somehow recreate that. That's stupid.
That is going to be.
That's awesome at the same time.
That's going to be my job.
Yeah.
For next
yeah.
week.
I'm such a nerd. I had the fucking TARDIS from Doctor Who. That was my text notification. But now it's just fucking cannon fodder hitting the iris from the Stargate. So, but I did like it. To be honest with you, I had forgotten about the iris. I forgot that they had built that. I think there's all sorts of questions about the iris because they're like, oh, it's titanium and it's like a fucking 5 millimeters away from the event horizon. So of course it's going to hold. But I don't think of course it's going to hold works for me necessarily when you're dealing with like aliens from off-world and whatnot.
And they're using it on a technology
exactly like
understand.
It's titanium.
Yeah, but they do get into it a little further in later episodes. We'll get some more answers out of it.
They do. It was just one of those things. Is like, oh yeah, and we built this, and going back to the whole thing, like, and don't fucking lose that thing on your wrist because you're gonna hit it,
Where does the iris go?
See, that's the other fault in this. So let's just assume here. Let's just do some basic. Fucking Mike Tyson myself. So let's say the round part of the Stargate. What is that? You think 4.5 feet in diameter, like the actual rings part?
No, that's bigger. That's like
feet?
8 feet.
8 feet. So you're putting that whole iris somehow just dissolves itself into that fucking outer ring.
Yeah. Yeah, because the Stargate portal itself is set back from the face.
Yeah.
The iris doesn't block the front. This is my big problem with it, is it's just magic.
It is.
Special effects.
There's no module. There's no, like, place it goes. There's no control interface to it. It's just kind of there.
All they have to do is just lift the gate up and turn it up so that when the guys come out, they fall right back in.
Seriously.
Ooh, that's a good
one. It should
one.
just be that.
That is a good one. Yeah. I like that. But then you don't get the fucking sound effect of a human being hitting that thing.
Shit.
Like I just can't get past it.
You're so right. I'm so sorry. I take it all back.
It's like it's the sound is if you could have been like in a boxing gym with Mike Tyson in his heyday, like hitting a punching bag. That's what that sounded like. I think there's that same kind of, but almost more of a metallic sound. But God, great sound effect, amazing sound effect. Yeah. No, I can't get that out of my head. I'm just gonna hear that all night long. A thump, thump. You think they're sending people? Yeah, dumbass, they're fucking sending people. God. How did that lady fly an F-16, apparently? She flew multiple sorties in Gulf War. Think they're sending people? Yeah, dummy, they're sending fucking people. But yeah, what else did we want to talk about with The Enemy Within? I thought that was a great episode. Kowalski's death, amazing, getting slit in half. Really wanted to see more of that, but oh well.
I was so sad that he just got his first command.
I know. I
You know, I felt like his relationship with O'Neill was really just starting because he had that line, and I think it was actually in Children of the Gods, where he's like, "We went through that whole mission together, and I never even knew you had a kid." It's like, well, you did spend 3 days with him, so I kind of get you didn't get into that backstory, but you know, like they were just getting started, and I'm like, oh, he's getting his own command, he's growing up, my boy's growing up, and then he died.
So was Kowalski under O'Neill's command prior to Stargate, though, or was that the first time they had met?
I think that was the first time they'd met because they were reactivating Jack because he was suicidal.
You're right.
And they were sending him back not to do anything but explode.
Yeah, no.
I thought they did know each other.
We'll have to explore it when we talk in the future when we talk about the movie or we do our live commentary on it or whatever.
So that would be episode 0?
Yes, the prequel.
Yeah. Side note, what's PS and PX?
What do you mean?
So towards what is that? Towards halfway through Enemy Within, you know, they're talking about how they got their orders and Jack's going to PS 3559 and Kowalski's team was going to go to PX 58834. You know, like the planet designations.
I think it's just the Earth coordinate system for them.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's
looking this up once, and because I name all of my external planets.
Okay.
On those.
Of course you do, you nerd.
And so I was looking up, like, how does it make sense or anything? And no, there's really no sense to it. Like, basically, the P's are in our galaxy, and the M's are in Pegasus, and that's like it.
Oh, see? No, that kind of makes sense, though. So they're drawn from real world at that point still.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a soft reboot on how they're doing this because in the movie too, it was they were going to a different galaxy.
Correct.
And in this, it's the other side of this galaxy.
Yeah.
Or actually, not even the other side. Abydos was the closest.
Correct. Yeah, because they talked about that. Which, side note, that was another great segment of Children of the Gods is when they all walk into that temple and Daniel's talking about how he's started to decipher basically what turns out to be, you know, various gate addresses and whatnot. And they talk about the whole solar drift and how, you know, basically how they weren't able to dial anywhere else is because that, side note, again, how you're supposed to be an astrophysicist. How do you not, like, at least attempt to think about the whole idea of solar drift, you know? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You know, Carter gets dumber and dumber the more I fucking think about it.
Well, no, in her defense, she's looking at this like it's only a couple of thousand years old, like 2,000 years old or so, because the Egyptians buried it. But the gates were built by the ancients many thousands of years ago. So the drift is greater than she would ever have thought it would be.
All right, I'll grant you that. I'm gonna give you that 1 point right there. But either I that was still a great episode, regardless if I think she's still an idiot.
She is.
But yeah, that was a great episode too. Part of that episode where they're talking about the whole solar drifting and you know they kind of figure out that that's why they hadn't been able to dial worlds yet. I like that we finally got our first real look at a DHD because that's going to come into place so much more now down the line. Were they calling it a DHD yet, or were they still just referring to it as telephone?
No, they did.
Did they?
Actually, I don't know if it was in the third episode or not.
Yeah, I don't think it was. They made reference to how you use it to dial home, but they never actually called it a dial home device.
I think they were dumbing it down for O'Neill again.
And by O'Neill, you mean the general audience.
Us, yes,
yeah,
us.
I think it's safe to say that they're dumbing it. Yeah, from now on, we're just going to refer to that as they're dumbing it down for us. The one thing that killed me. So the first planet they go to, right? It's in ruins. Like there's rocks that you could tell once were probably some sort of formation, some sort of, you know, special formation. And the Stargate itself is still upright, and the DHD is upright, but that's it. Like everything else looks like it's fucking chaos, but those two things are still, you know, withstanding everything. So I do like how they're setting that up, and I know that they're in future episodes. You know, the DHD definitely does play a larger focus on it. So Yeah. What else? What else do you guys have for that?
Yeah, I mean, all I got from that is apparently that world that they were on is Chulak, which is Teal'c's home world. Which, why would he be there? Why would he be stationed there? That looked like a way station where they just brought everybody to offer him up for auction for the gold.
I agree. It was basically like a meeting point for everyone else to show up to bid, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, Apophis didn't live there. He was visiting.
Correct.
We know that.
Yeah,
and he's the first prime of Apophis.
Yep. No, absolutely 100%. And then, so did they relocate them back to there?
To wherever they came from, because the Goa'uld brought people from many different planets. That's why they came to Earth and got, I don't even know the girl's name, and that's why they went to Abydos and took Share and Skara.
Yeah. So we're still under the assumption, though, that the people that came back through the Stargate with them, the refugees, if you will, somehow knew their own gate address.
Yep. We're just gonna kind of assume that they know how to use the Stargates.
Yeah.
This is some horribly unorganized human trafficking.
Only by our standards.
That's awful.
I think by Goa'uld standards, like possibly they knew what they were doing. But yeah, I do remember thinking that when they came back, I think it was O'Neill that said something about, we can send them back. And I'm like, where, motherfucker? Like,
It's like you don't know where they're from.
no. And
Yeah,
you clearly can't send them back to the same fucking planet you just took them from. So, and you haven't developed this whole network of planets yet. So it's not like you know of a safe place to send them.
Nope.
Unless they were talking about like Detroit, like they were just going to send them to, which by standards is a much better place than what they came from,
Cheap housing. This could work.
That could work. Maybe that's where they sent all the refugees, was like the on-screen Detroit.
Well, it's funny, in the novels that actually picked up where the movie left off, that's exactly what they did. It was still just one planet that they could go to. They didn't have the whole network, so it was just Abydos. But they took all of the refugees from Abydos and just distributed them around the Earth.
So they separated them?
They had a community of them, but they gave them places to live, and they had no idea what was going on. They bought cans of food that had pictures of good food on them, and there was one thing where it was a gravy. They opened it up. They thought there was going to be a turkey inside. It was just gravy.
You know what? That is one thing. I've never actually read any of the books. Did they do a comic series too? Or was it just novels?
I don't think
know.
it ever took off. I thought they were going to,
Yeah.
but MGM again dropped it.
There were some comics. I'll have to read those.
Okay. God damn, MGM's always just MGM's the master cock blocker. We were talking about it, Mark. I don't think you had joined the Discord channel yet, but there's actually a current Stargate video game.
Really? Which
yeah,
one is it?
Well, and I linked it in the Discord. You can take a look at it when this is over. But it's called Stargate Network. The website is just Stargate-network.net, and it looks like they're building it on the Unreal Engine 4. It kind of looks like a mod to
good.
maybe Half-Life. Definitely updated graphics versus Half-Life. But I'm going to download it this week and kind of play around with it. I watched some YouTube videos on it. It seems that right now, what you can do is kind of walk around the gate room of the SGC. You can kind of mess around with some computers, and you can actually dial gate addresses. And then I think the only gate address that works is Abydos. But you can actually travel through the Stargate. You can go over to Abydos, kind of walk around the pyramid and check it out. So this is definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on. I kind of want to see how they go from this. It looks interesting, though. Graphically, it actually looks really, really good. So hopefully something comes from this. But again, I was talking to Kevin about it. I just think that once it gets big enough that it gets on MGM's radar, I think they're going to cock block it,
They have to.
Call it something else. Planet Gate or something.
Time Gate.
You know what? And if they do,
Star, and that's it.
yeah, even if they were to change it around enough that MGM said, okay, this is not like ours, but it was still basically the same thing, I'd still play the shit out of that game.
Oh yeah,
It just has to be 10% different.
Yeah, change how the Stargate looks and all that stuff. And I'm in.
Time gate. It's a time gate.
It is a time gate, but you're not maneuvering through time though.
No, but in the Chinese translation of Stargate, they actually called it time gate. Confused the hell out of everybody.
How do you even go? How do you get from Stargate to time gate? I can understand Planet Gate.
Listen, I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't speak Chinese.
Okay, yeah, but you can also. The problem here, right, is that you know too much. We've already established that. So this would be one of those things that you should know.
I'll have to look into it. That'll be my homework.
All right, look it up. Yeah, any final thoughts on those 2/3 episodes? Because we're calling this 3 episodes. Children of the Gods is basically one big episode cut into 2 parts. But any final thoughts about those?
No, that's pretty much everything I had.
No,
Mr. Mark? No? Okay. So next week, we're going to get into, what's it going to be? Emancipation, Broken Divided, and the First Commandment. I think we can nail out 3 again. I think the format will probably work.
Pretty cool.
I don't think we're going to get any filler episodes. We're not going to get any fluffy shit. I think we're dealing with, at least with the first season, all story arcing stuff. So I don't think we get the shitty episodes until later on in the season. And I did call them shitty episodes.
I look forward to them.
Oh, they'll be fun conversations. So, all right. I think that pretty much sums up episode 2. Thank you for everybody for tuning in, checking it out. We look forward to talking to everybody next week about those 3 great episodes. Have a great week for everybody.